How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about SNDL Sundial growers. I've been getting the messages, Dre, we need an update. So of course I got you guys covered. So before I get started, if you got to jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you are a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. I've been getting messages saying, Dre, you helped me out. I loaded up in the 70 range and then I sold right before earnings. So it's great to hear that. And of course, these videos are helpful. Now, the next thing that we're going to be going over is going on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information and as well as recent institutional ownership. Are institutions loading up on shares, and does SNDL still continue to have short squeeze potential? We're going to be finding out. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know, were institutions loading up on large scale orders on the Friday, or were there outflows? We're going to find that out. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some details that I want to share with you guys. So let's get to it. So we're going to be doing a technical analysis for SNDL Sundial growers. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at 75 cents, being down 9.20%. On the low, it tested 75 cents, and then on the high, testing 79 cents. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 117.628 million shares. And as far as for the average volume over 10 trading days, being at 80.066 million shares. So we had above average volume, but you can see it was a lot of selling pressure on the day. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is a 1-year daily chart, you can see right here at the RSI, we're at 38.76, so we are in the oversold territory. Looking at the indicators on our chart, we are below the 100-day, the 200-day, and as well as the 21-day EMA. And this 21-day EMA is now going to be serving as an area of resistance, and this is something we've gone over with as well. Now, as far as where it's at, where it closed at 75 cents, we do have support in this particular area. If it does decide to pull back, then just know we do also have support at this 70-cent level, and as well you can see clearly right here around this 65-cent level. So I was unable to do some videos. I told you guys about my power cord failure and so forth, but what I want you to know, this is part of the reason why I was telling you guys you want to be loading up in the 70-cent range. I know many of you got in at 78, 79, and right before they started to go in to announce earnings, you could have sold right around 82 cents. Many were able to do that and took advantage of this. Of course, if you were holding shares, then you are in the position of having it at 75 cents. So what I'm trying to say is here, do I believe SNDL can make another pop at least within a year? I got this question. Most definitely, especially since we are still waiting in regards to the legalization of Mary Jane on the federal level. I would look forward to actually seeing a pop. But for the most part, keep an eye on this 82-cent level and as well as a 200-day at 87 cents. So if you want to start accumulating in this 70-cent range and possibly if it gets into the 60s, then these are areas to also consider. But do keep in mind being below the 200-day and all of those indicators does come with risk. So make sure you have a strategy that will work well for you. Entry, exit, very important. But as far as how everything is looking, this 80-cent level is going to definitely become a psychological level for SNDL, so please keep that in mind. So I feel if we end up getting back to that 80-cent area, then of course the only thing we'd have to worry about is actually getting past the 21-day EMA. So let's see what happens. So we're on Fintel. We're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for SNDL. So as we scroll down on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So what we want to take a look at is for August the 13th. So we can see institutions have been loading up on shares. Again, this is coming from filings now. So as far as what we've seen, we see Evermay Wealth Management just over 9,000 shares, Gladstone with just over 21,000 shares, Jump Financial with just over 38,000 shares. We also have Moretta Investment Partners going in with 10,000 shares. And we also have Goldman Sachs here going in with just over 44,000 shares. And of course, we have GMT Capital Corp that went in with just over 2 million shares. So institutions have have been loading up. Now, when we take a look at the short interest information, scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 19 minutes ago. And as far as for the short ball free rate, it's at 1.31%. Taking a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see for the 12th, it was at 37.37, but at the end of the day for the 13th, it was at 48.72. So we see it is definitely has gone up, and one of the things we need to know is that SNDL does continue to have short squeeze potential. So if you are inside of this play, do know with this high short interest, this does come with a lot of manipulation, and of course if we don't have a lot of volume coming into the stock, we can see some more pressure on the stock price. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for SNDL on Friday. So we can see here on the inflow, it was 25.60, and then the outflow is at 26.26. We had 0 on the large for both. On the medium, it was 14.30, and then on the small, it was 11.30. Keep in mind, this is in the millions. On the outflow side, it was 16.43, and then on the small, it was 9.83. When we take a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see it continues to be zeros down the board. So institutions are not taking part in large scale orders whatsoever. We're not seeing it on the inflow side, and we're not seeing it on the outflow side either. So if they are taking part, then it's more likely going to be seen in the small and as well as the medium sized orders. Do keep in mind, retail investors and traders like us end up actually making up this amount in regards to medium scale and as well as the small scale. So with all of that said, as far as how is it looking going into next week, definitely something to keep an eye on if you're interested in short-term trade opportunities. So now let's jump into the final thoughts, and I'll go over some more details. So for my final thoughts for SNDL Sundial growers, I'm going to go over a few points. First, when we went on Fintel, one thing we can see for sure, SNDL still continues to have short squeeze potential. Shorts are still heavily vested inside of this play, and that's one thing that you need to be aware about. Also, we can see as far as on the institutional side, yes, we've had some institutions who have closed their positions, but we've also seen some institutions who have opened up new positions as well. Another point that I want to make too, when I was taking a look at the earnings, again, they just missed their revenue estimate. So overall, this is not a bad thing, and the stock really did not pull back that much. Another thing we also need to understand, they have a very heavy cash position, being about $1 billion in Canadian funds. So this gives them the opportunity to take advantage of investments and as well as acquisitions, which we've seen them do in the past already, especially with Sunstream, Bancorp, and so forth. So with all of that said, if you are inside of SNDL, if you are sticking to the trading strategy that I talked about on this channel, you would have been able to take profits. Many are saying, hey, well, you know what? It pulled back so much. What do I do? But again, you need to know what your exit is going to be. We already knew for a very long time SNDL was trading in a very tight range. So when I was getting messages and people telling me, hey, man, I just made some quick profits, I wasn't trying to hold after earnings. So if you decided to hold after earnings, and if there was some downside as far as for your position, you have to put the blame on yourself. And if you don't do this, how do you expect to become better at trading overall in general? And like I said, if you were loading up in that 70 range, so whether it was at 78 or 79, there were opportunities where you could have sold at 83 cents and as well as 84. And then a few people that messaged me yesterday, they got in around 78 cents and they ended up selling right at 82 cents right before they announced doing their earnings, and they were able to be profitable. Anyone that did not have this strategy, or maybe you had a higher price target, maybe you're saying, well, you know what, I'm not selling until it's at 85 or maybe $1 and so on. That was the price that you had set out for yourself. It didn't hit. Now it's time to go back, take a look at your game plan, go to the drawing board and see what things are looking like. Of course, SNDL has the benefit to actually capitalize on anything that happens inside of the cannabis industry inside of the United States. An example of this, if we end up having legalization on a federal level, then of course you can look forward to seeing momentum in SNDL. It's as clear as day. We've seen this in the past already, just when talks start coming up and you start hearing it all over in the media. Then by all means, if you want to take advantage of that, if SNDL is pulling back even further and you want to bring your cost average down, then you have the choice to do so. And I know many are going to be doing that, and it's part of the reasons why they haven't been panicking or haven't been worried worried because they're saying if it pulls back, hey, that just gives me an opportunity to make more when it pulls back. So this is why it comes down to having patience if you decided to hold throughout this play. And that's what I wanted to really update you guys on to make sure that you were aware of that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.